Damn. Sorry. I was trying to upload or save my video and then I accidentally deleted it, so now I gotta record this again. Um, I'm gonna be doing the Omen franchise review. Um, I haven't been able to make videos for the past few weeks because I've been busy and it was the holidays, and then I'm gonna be starting up school soon again now this week, and I'm gonna be working it, so I'm gonna be busy again. But I'm gonna be trying to get more videos out. So, anyways, I'm gonna be reviewing The Omen, which came out in 1976. It's directed by Richard Donner, who is his most well-known movie is the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeves. It also stars Gregory Peck, and Gregory Peck, I know him best from To Kill a Mockingbird, but he has been in other other movies. Then there's Lee Remick, and David Warner, who I've known from the original Straw Dogs. On a side note too, David Warner was actually one of the first casting choices to play Freddy Krueger in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So if he ever wanted to do that role, I wonder how he would have been as Freddy Krueger. But anyways, so basic plot of this movie is this rich political family end up adopting this child, this baby boy from the hospital because they lost their child during childbirth, and so they take this baby, and a lot of weird freak accidents happen, and a lot of deaths happen, and they don't know why, but a bunch of people come up to, well, a priest and a photographer and I think some other person, telling them, look, your son is the Antichrist. And they're like, the parents are like, no, or the dad at least is like, no, that's not true. Why would you say that? And then later on, he starts putting the pieces together, and he's like, yeah, there is something wrong with my son. And it comes down to he either has to kill his son or let him rule to become the Antichrist, the destroyer of this earth. And basically, that is the plot of the movie. Now, out of all the three big trilogy of satanic movies, which is Rosemary's Baby, um, The Exorcist, and The Omen, I prefer The Omen out of the other two. Ever since I saw The Omen when I was a kid, I just loved it better than The Exorcist. I don't know why, I just do. And then I didn't see Rosemary's Baby until I was older, but yeah, this movie, I don't know why, it just hit me on a different level, and it's one of my favorite horror franchises. So, oh yeah, and I'm also wearing the shirt, The Omen. The Omen. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. It's kind of hard talking about this movie because it's a movie I like. So it's kind of harder for me to talk about something like that for some reason. But if it's a movie that I don't like or have a little bit of issues with, I can kind of like criticize it and find more reasons to talk about it. I don't know why. But anyways, I'll try to explain. I like the cinematography. It's very beautiful in the scenery, especially like the scene where Lee Remick and Gregory Peck and little Damien are walking through this forest, and there's like a little river right there. And it's just like a very sweet, touching moment. And then Damien runs off, and they freak out, but he was only hiding behind a tree. But that scenery just looked beautiful. Like, I don't know, like European forests and shit, they just look very fascinating and mythical to me. And That's another thing. Like this, I don't know when this movie was shot. It had to be shot during the fall or winter time because you could tell it's cold out, and I just love that cold, detached feeling. Like physically, like it's cold out, and then like the feel, it gives off that feeling of like just cold and wet and detached kind of feeling. It's just like, but there's the scene in the cemetery when Robert Thorne and the photographer go to see if who Damien's real parents are, because the priest kept telling him that, you know, he's the son of Satan, but the mother is a jackal. So they're gonna go see if this is true, and they find out that yes, she is a jackal, and then they find out what happened to Robert Thorne's, you know, his biological son, which they find out that he was murdered and they buried him in the cemetery. But anyways, like how the cemetery looked, and like how it was just like cold and windy out, like it just gave off that vibe of like a Universal or Hammer horror movie, and I love that. Like you can like just like the sky is all dark, but there's like dim lights in the background, and it just looks like a creepy ass cemetery. And I just love that scene. It's very like atmospheric and creepy. And then also like when they get attacked by the Rottweilers in that scene, in the cemetery scene, that's like very cringeworthy. It's like animal attack scenes in movies kind of just like make me cringe, especially if it's like dog attack scenes, because some of them look really fucking realistic, and that looked realistic to me. But there's also a scene where Gregory Peck's character climbs over the fence, and then he's trying to get away from the dogs, and then his arm goes through this, and the spike pokes through his arm, and it just looked painful. Like it just looked real and painful, and it just made me cringe. Like this movie came out 40 plus years ago, and that scene still makes me cringe. Um, yeah, the scenery. Let me go back on the scenery too. Like the scenes where they go to like Italy or Rome, and Rome, Italy, and some other locations where you were doing archaeological digs. Love that. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like the archaeological scenes in the Exorcist movies. Yeah, but I love like how creepy, and like you see like all these images on the walls and shit, and it just looks creepy and weird. Like you know, when you go to like a real archaeological dig, you'll see like these weird drawings and writings on the wall. Um, I also like that guy, the archaeologist, oh my god, the archaeologist, um, Buchenhagen. He's not really in the movie, in the first movie that much, or he has a little part in the second movie, but he's kind of like the exposition dump. He's the one that gives, Robert Thorne, Gregory Peck's character, the daggers to kill Damien, which becomes a thing in the rest of the franchise, and then also in the Damien TV show, which I won't review. Um, but yeah, he was an interesting character. I wish he had more to do, but he just seemed like I guess he was more just for like exposition dump. But he is an interesting character. Um, I also like the soundtrack, like the score, Avante Satani, I think that's how you say it. Um, it's just most people know it. Bobby, hit me, boo. I don't know the words, but I know most people will know the. That's like one of the most iconic horror soundtracks ever. I love it. It's just very creepy and mysterious, and I listen to it often. And it's kind of like the Tubular Bells soundtrack from The Exorcist, It's just very, once you hear it, you know exactly what movie it's from. And it's by Jerry Goldsmith, the score. Which I can't think. I think did he do the first Aliens or second Aliens? He did the soundtrack for one of them, and I think he did the soundtrack for Star Trek: The Motion Picture, but I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah, very iconic score. There's a lot of iconic scenes in the movie too. Let me get to the acting. The acting's very good, even from like, I mean, Gregory Peck does ham it up a bit in some scenes, like when he's having like when he has to freak out and stuff. But it doesn't drag the movie down. And it's kind of weird that Gregory Peck played in a horror movie. I mean, it's not trashy like not most, but some horror movies. But still, I didn't look up why he did this movie or whatever. But like when I think about movies he's in, it's like very like it's probably weird, like dramas and proper kind of movies. You wouldn't really think of him doing like a horror movie. I guess this would be more like a supernatural thriller, but yeah, it was just weird that he was in it, but he did a good job. It wasn't like he was phoning it in. Um, everyone is good. Yeah, everyone's good in this movie, even the kid that played Damien. Like, sometimes, like, when he was staring off and shit, it just looked creepy. Like, legitimately creepy. Um, yeah, there's a lot of iconic scenes in this movie. I think the most famous one is the nanny that hangs herself at the birthday party. Because she goes, "It's all for you, Damien," and then she kills herself. Or Damien, it's all for you. And then she hangs herself. The scene where the photographer gets decapitated by the plate of glasswood or glasswood the the plate of glass that flies off the truck. That scene is still pretty effective to this day. I mean, you can kind of tell it was a dummy head, but it was still like, holy shit, like that's one of the best decapitation scenes I've seen in a movie. And in my opinion, one of the best. Also the scene where the priest gets impaled by the pole. Now rewatching it now, like you could tell that I don't know if they didn't have the effects for it, the money for the special effects, or they just didn't know how to pull the scene off, but you could tell that the pole did not go through him, that he's like leaning forward and the pole's in the background, like behind him. But I still think it's a pretty effective scene, either way. Yeah, I also like the little hints, like when the photographer takes the pictures, and you can see like these lines like near the victims, like it predicts like how they're gonna die, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I guess that's where the Omen thing comes from. But that was pretty inventive way, like like you could see like a black image like around the nanny's neck, like she was gonna get hanged later on. Same thing with the priest. You see like a black line going like through his back and stuff, like he was gonna get impaled. That was pretty creative for this movie. Also, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard several times that The Omen was one of the first mainstream horror movies to have graphic deaths in it. Like, I don't know if it's true or not, and I probably should have looked it up, because there probably was movies before this or came out around the same time that had graphic violence in it, like in the mainstream horror movies, but I've always heard that this was one of the first mainstream horror movies to have graphic deaths in it. And now, no, I don't know if it's true, but yeah, and maybe back then, because this came out in '76, The death scenes were shocking, but nowadays it's pretty tame. You know what I mean? Like, it's just woman hangs herself, guy gets impaled by a pole, and some dude gets decapitated. Yeah, there's like I said, a lot of iconic death scenes and scenes in it. I also think about the scene at the zoo where the Damien and his mom go to the zoo, and like the animals start, like these baboons start freaking out and attacking the car. Also, when Damien knocks his mom off of the stool and she falls over the balcony, and then later on she gets killed by Miss Baylock. She gets thrown out of a window, and Miss Baylock was creepy ass character too. She's like Damien's caretaker, like in the real world, but I think like I don't know, she's like a demon or something that has to watch over Damien. But she is a creepy lady, and like when she has her Wattweiler, her companion, the Wattweiler, yeah, it was just very. She was just a creepy character, and the scene at the end where Robert Thorne confronts her and the dog, like that's a pretty great scene too. And then the end scene where, you know, he tries to kill Damien, then he gets shot by the police, and yeah. I'm sorry, I don't really know what else to say about it. Most people have seen this movie by now, especially if they're a horror fan or a movie fan in general. It's a classic. It's one of the best horror movies ever made. So, yes, I highly recommend it, but if you, like I said, if you're a horror fan or if a movie fan, you probably already seen this movie. So anyway, that's my review.